All right. Hey, hey, welcome back, guys. All right, so Geminis. Geminis, our mythological tale that begins this story is we pulled the card of Hades. And Hades, of course, is one of the Olympian gods. He is, of course, the brother to Zeus and Poseidon. But Hades rules the world, where, of course, Zeus rules the heavens and Poseidon rules the seas. Now, Hades is an interesting concept also, just because, him ruling the underworld. In Greek mythology, the poets describe the underworld as having like very vast and, different regions. And in fact, there is like a region that is kind of like the equivalent of hell, Tartarus. But then there's also the Elysian Fields, which is reserved for like the heroes in the mythologies, and that is like heaven. And then there's also the Asphodel Meadows, which is where kind of like the, like the regular souls reside. So just kind of as a side note, Hades in the underworld does not mean scary and dark places. And in fact, also, of course, the underworld was seen to be anything under the ground that also had great riches, great, soil, great nutrients, great mineral content. So this actually puts a much happier spin and a less, like imposing spin on the concept of Hades and the underworld. Now, this card in particular asks a character what is hidden though underneath, and encourages a character to look into like the shadows, or look into something that we might previously have thought was like a little scarier, but it might be hiding like all these other different beneficial layers, like we just described with, the Elysian Fields and the asphodel meadows and such, and all the riches and nutrients. So this takes a lot of the sting and the fear out of looking into like the subconscious, or looking into what's underneath something, things that at first seem like a little scary. This is maybe a character who shouldn't shy away from something, because maybe there's like riches to be had in facing a fear. So there is something hidden from a character right now, and it may be something they haven't wanted to see, but it's going to be a lot less scary than what they thought. Five of Pentacles. Somebody could be afraid. This could be somebody that is afraid Gemini is going to leave them, or maybe this is Gemini afraid maybe an earth sign is going to leave them. This could be what stops somebody from asking another person out. We have the Fool. Definitely, it stops somebody from going after their wish, their hope, their dream. So far, we actually don't have Gemini here at all. So I'm going to say that this is somebody else's reason for not trying to ask Gemini out, or taking a leap of faith toward Gemini. They could be an Aries. They could be somebody who would love to go on dancing with Gemini, but they just won't ask Gemini out. And it's because of this fear. What if I get rejected? What if Gemini says yes, but then they change their mind? What if? So we have somebody that is deep down, possibly they come across as very, very shy. Gemini may have noticed this person. And we have them very sweet. Page of Cups. This person could be a tiger in other areas of their life. And then when it comes to them being around Gemini, they may be very awkward, very shy. This is somebody who might almost in the most delicate of ways give like a little compliment to Gemini, but not really in a forthright manner. This could be somebody who wants to say something nice to Gemini, but doesn't quite, get it out all the way. We have a Queen of Swords. We have an Ace of Pentacles. There's our Gemini. Gemini represents a person on the other side of that door. This is somebody who either wants to knock on Gemini's door and offer them, possibly now it's an apology. This could be somebody who's petrified to give Gemini an apology. It could be somebody that knows, like, I would have to face whatever Gemini is going to say. And if they tell me to get lost, then guess what? It's all over, and it's the end of the road. They might be scared of how they'll feel if Gemini doesn't say, I receive your apology, or yes, I'm great. It's nice to see you. Come on in. They are very scared to face Gemini in this story. Queen of Cups. This doesn't have to be about love and romance. This could be about somebody that loves Gemini deeply. This could be like a sibling, a family member. This could be a same-sex couple, though, as well, or somebody who, on one hand, they're even dressed in blue, just like Gemini is. There's cloudy skies over both of them. This is making me think that Gemini and another person have had like a conflict, and the two of them, I don't think either person's very happy about this. Gemini may have had to put, she's sitting here with her sword up. Gemini may have, put this person on pause and like, I'm not dealing with you when you act like this. Doesn't mean Gemini never wants to talk to this person, but there might have been something that was really hurtful that occurred. What is it that they feel they need to apologize for? I mean, this is somebody who, oh God, they're scared. They're coming across as both a feminine and a masculine in this storyline, by the way. Ooh, the World card. Did they mess up an engagement? Did they mess up a marriage? Did they not actually move a relationship forward? And Gemini finally said, I'm done. We're not going toward anything more serious here, are we? It could have been that. It may have ended up saying it was wasted time. Why'd you waste my time? This could be somebody from some time ago who was not ready for a more serious relationship. Maybe they dated Gemini for a period of time before finally admitting that they were not ready to take a relationship to the next level. Maybe it made Gemini feel like, then what were you doing? Why'd you eat up my time? There's something about the time. They have to apologize for that. However, the only reason that they're ready to apologize is because something has changed in their own divine timing. You notice that we have somebody dressed in, a wedding gown coming to the surface again, whereas before it's like Gemini was ready for the next step and they weren't. We do have strong Capricorn coming off of that. Also, we've got Leo, we've got Aquarius, we've got Taurus and Scorpio as well. And we've already had some Aries in here. I can't really tell what zodiac I would attribute them to being because they've changed both masculine and feminine. They've changed zodiac. They're kind of all over the map. So I don't know who to call them yet other than somebody who wants to say that they're sorry. Oh. So we have Two of Cups. It doesn't matter. This one was sideways anyway. We have a Two of Cups upright and we have that Queen of Wands sideways. Whew. So no wonder this would be a really big apology. This is somebody who felt like Gemini was the person that they wanted, the person who holds their heart, but they were not ready for a serious commitment. Now that part alone could be really confusing. So I was so important to you, but you weren't ready for any kind of a commitment. Instead, you made me feel less than, or you made me feel like somehow you weren't that attracted to me or something. Like that's, even if that's not at all what it was, that might be what they are realizing they made Gemini feel like. So I wasn't good enough to marry, but now I'm more attractive. They are, number one, that was never the case. This has nothing to do with attraction or love, because in fact, they love and are attracted to Gemini, wildly so. What it had to do with was the place that they were at in their life with their maturity level. That has nothing to do with attraction. That has nothing to do with how much they wanted to be with Gemini. It had to do with their maturity level. Now, as we see this story, like this is the stuff that was hidden. They were scared. They were scared of stepping up into full-blown, adult relationship status. Like, oh my God, I have to be a grown-up if I'm going to be with Gemini. They're not going to accept anything less. I have to be all grown up, but I'm not grown up yet. Okay, so that's the real underlying reason that they did not pursue a relationship and take it to the next level in the past. We have a lot about timing in this story. They have grown up now. They caught up, admittedly late in the game perhaps, but they are now a match. They are now mature enough. But the big fear here is if I reach out to Gemini to say sorry, oh boy, if I reach out to say sorry, and I want Gemini to give to me again. That's really what this boils down to. I want Gemini to love me like they did once before. I'm asking for a new beginning. And if Gemini says no, that's it. Story's over. I can't beg and plead and make Gemini give me a second chance. this is going to be a one and done. So deep down, we have a character who's very, very fearful of hearing Gemini's answer. Even though they're at the place where they finally have something to offer, they're still not stepping forward because they're braced or having to prepare themselves for a rejection, and they're bracing themselves for what that's going to look like, feel like. Five of Cups, Emperor, Three of Pentacles. You know, it's wild because they may not even know what has happened to Gemini. Gemini may be with somebody else that they're dating, somebody who's wonderful. Gemini maybe has always, though, still had this person in the back of their mind. Like, that was the one that really hurt me. But I have gone on and I've dated somebody absolutely magnificent. And I am in a great relationship right now with someone that treats me very, very well. But it actually still looks like there is a wound for Gemini in this story. Gemini either will have an emperor or has an emperor right now, but it doesn't quite take away that wound. That wound still exists. Okay. And I don't think that that's like to disrespect the emperor or anything. It's just, you know, just because we meet somebody new, it doesn't mean that our life story that we had before we met somebody somehow gets dissolved. With this Three of Wands, okay, in this story, I'm actually going to go ahead and suggest, remember, these are fictional stories, okay, so don't shoot the messenger here. But in this story, we have a Gemini who has gone on to meet somebody who could be older than them, very mature, really wanting to give to Gemini. And it's nice and it's collaborative, but it almost seems like Gemini has been waiting to be able to like fully embrace this life with the emperor, because they're like, something else still has to play out in my life. Now, it could be that deep down Gemini has in the back of their mind this thought that in divine timing, I've always known I would hear from this Two of Cups person again. And maybe it's to get closure, or maybe it's because there's a story that isn't finished yet with them. We have the Hierophant, we have the Hermit. Look, Gemini can slice it and shake it any way they want, but the bottom line is, it's like, all I can say is that I still know. And I kind of think that Gemini has been holding back from fully committing to an emperor, or being able to picture themselves fully committing to an emperor, when there is still this unfinished thread of a storyline. To me, it looks like Gemini has some, you know, connection still to this person, this Two of Cups person, and try as they might, they know it's still there. You can fight it, you can pretend it's not there, but it's there. And that's what it comes across to me as. Anyway, Gem slices it. It's like, I still can't shake off that I know what I know. I know that that person has always still thought of me. Let's go and ask the universe. Universe, do you have a message of advice at all for Gemini? By the way, Gems, tomorrow I will be starting the series for November. So my goal is to hopefully get every zodiac done tomorrow. So Geminis, you may have another one coming right up. Geminis, you also got one on Monday, I believe, that I don't think many of you watched. So just FYI, check the Gemini playlist to know when Gemini videos come out. I strive to give you guys 2 every week. Sometimes it gets jumbled, but I try really hard to give everybody 2. But sometimes people don't even watch the Gemini videos. So I'm like, I don't know, do I keep doing Gemini or not? It's always been a question mark for me because I've never really gained traction in Gemini. So if you guys want them, please make sure you thumbs up. Please make sure you subscribe, so that I know that you guys want the Gemini videos. Otherwise, I'll let those peter out at some point. But Four of Sacred Circles, the Four of Pentacles here, the universe says the ghost is still there. Gemini still senses this person. That senses their presence, senses the energy is still out there. But with that Four of Sacred Circles, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm feeling this energy, but they're still holding back. But their energy is cloying. It's around me. Either Gemini needs to do like a cleanse of this person's energy so they can move on with life, or it's just the awareness that it's holding me back somehow. Okay, so it has been holding Gemini back. In this message, it says the way things ended with this person have held Gemini back, but it might be their disappointment with their own behavior that has held Gemini back. It's their heartbreak and sorrow that they kept themselves so, you know, cloistered that they just couldn't go ahead and move forward with Gemini. And it almost feels like it's been going on for some time. Like maybe this person is never going to get the courage to come forward and just say, Gemini, can I please have a second chance? I hope Gemini doesn't hold back from moving forward if they really love some new emperor. I hope that they don't wait for this person, because maybe this person will never get the courage to move forward. Okay, somebody's got to move forward. It almost feels like if Gemini moves forward, that might start the ball rolling. Now, I know it could be like, okay, great. So I'm going to move forward with the emperor, and then I'm going to hear from this person. And then what? All I would say is this is Gemini's life and Gemini's choices to make. If Gemini lets themselves gravitate towards something that would make them happy, and then something else shows back up in their life that would make them happier, yet Gemini has every right to choose the path that they authentically want. The big thing is holding space and not moving forward for great happiness, because what if something else comes back in? That would cheat Gemini out of everything. And I think this whole story is about getting the juices flowing again, getting the energy flowing again. It's time for action to be taken again. And maybe deep down, Gemini's been like, I don't want to make the wrong choice though. But this kind of gives Gemini all the power and says it's okay for Gemini to move forward in the route or the direction that they would like to go in and not feel guilty about it. And if Gemini changes their mind in any given direction later on, they're allowed to do that too. It's just that Gemini doesn't have to sit and feel like I can't move forward with an emperor because deep down I still am thinking about the wound of, that I had from somebody else. And if they ever come back in to fix it, I don't know what I would do. This just says Gemini doesn't have to worry about the wound that they experienced with somebody else. They're allowed to just gravitate toward happiness. This isn't Gemini. Gemini doesn't have to make everything in the universe fair and right. They just have to do fair and right by themselves. This is not to be selfish or anything, or use a great emperor and be like, I'll just hang out with them until this other person comes back. No, this is more like the authentic, like, let me move forward and ask myself, what is making me happy? Who is in my world making me happy? What do I like about them? What do I want to give to them? And be able to move forward with that and not stress out about what tomorrow brings or what 10 years from now might bring. Because in truth, this person from Gemini's past could show up in the next 15 minutes. And then again, they could never show up again in this lifetime. Just because they have a regret, it doesn't mean that they'll ever mature enough in this lifetime. So what? Gemini spends their whole life saying, I can't really get with this amazing emperor, because what if that person came back from the past and then I had to face them, and then what would I choose? I don't know for sure, but I think I could love this emperor. But what if, I don't want to do the emperor wrong. This kind of says for Gemini to just be allowing themselves to live in the present and decide based off of what's currently around them, what would make you happiest. This is not to encourage Gemini to do an emperor dirty or anything like that. It's more to say, if you'd like to, interact, then awesome. I want to interact with you too. And I'm going to give my happiness the best chance possible. I kind of like the encouragement that Gemini gets to be happy for a change instead of somehow be stuck waiting for the day that they can be happy. And it kind of frees Gemini up to be able to not be fearful about that. So all I can say is the emperor seems to be in the present and Gemini seems to like the emperor. I hope that Gemini gets to explore that avenue and have a really nice time. And whatever's going to happen with that person from the past, they got to first build the confidence to do something. And we don't really know as we exit this story if they'll ever get there. Sorry, but that is the story that we got here. You guys, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. Bye.